Hello, welcome to Just the Dis. My name is Brian, and we talk about Blu-rays here. And I've got a collection update thing here happening for this episode, and there's a lot to talk about. Let's get into it. I know a lot of people have been talking about this set, but it is really worth talking about. This is the MillCreek Magnum PI Complete Series set. It is epic and heavy. As you can see, it's a beast. It includes, I want to say like 31 discs or something. I don't even think I can do the thingy, but like it forms it forms like a little, I'm never going to figure it out, but basically you can see like it forms like a cool pattern of stuff on both the front and the back when you line them up. You can see that they're pretty cool. And it is, I think it's like 31 discs, and it's everything, and it's so epic. It's pretty cool. So like you can see, there's not a ton of, I want to say they're doing like 4 episodes per disc or something for the most part. And so it's, the bit rates are pretty good, and it looks good. I will say I did notice on this first disc, which is pretty cool, it has the original pilot 2-parter and then another couple episodes from the first season, and then Tom Selleck's appearance on the Rockford Files, which you can also get in your Rockford Files set from MillCreek. This one I did notice just slightly in the blacks of the pilot episode. There was a tiny bit of compression, so they might have just slightly overdone it on that one, but the rest seemed to be fine for me. And it has some cool features. I want to say they're mostly in the last set or the last disc. Yeah, there's none in the first round. I wanted to say that most of the extras came in the the season 6 through 8. So you start to get, here we go. The bonus features in the last 3 or 4 discs of the season 6 or 8. So you can see there you get like a bonus interview with writer, producer, director Ruben Leader, Chris Abbott. She's one of the writers of the show, and actress, writer Deborah Pratt, all interviewed on that one. And then over here we have the great 80s TV flashback inside the ultimate crime crossover, America's Top Sleuth. And then we start to get another interview with composer Mike Post, director Virgil Vogel featurette, and then commentary with writer Jay Hughley. And he does a few commentaries here on a couple different episodes. You can see the ones that are starred are the ones that he does commentary on. And then there's another one with co-executive producer Chaz Floyd Johnson. So those are fun. Those commentaries are interesting. I definitely got some insights out of those. But, if you don't remember Magnum, you probably didn't grow up in the 80s like I did. And Tom Selleck, this was a big hit with my dad. I remember we watched the show on the regular all the time, and obviously it was a great and successful show. You have a great supporting cast, including John Hillerman, and I'm trying to remember everybody that's involved. Well, I mean, one thing that's cool about it is that, Roger E. Mosley and Larry Minetti, of course, as TC, and Rick. They're all, old Vietnam buddies. I forgot all about that stuff. I forgot about watching that pilot again. I remembered like, oh my gosh, yes, there's all this Vietnam stuff in there, and Robert Loggia was part of Magnum's team. I totally didn't remember that at all. And so there's just a lot of things coming back to me. There's a lot of episodes I remember as a kid that I haven't seen in forever, and so it was really nice to see them looking so good and getting this really wonderful treatment from MillCreek. One thing to note is just how, as an indication of just how popular Magnum was, I made a list of all the guest stars that came on the show, and it is just so epic. I'm just going to go through, this is just some of the people that are part of this set in one episode or another. Jenny Agutter, Talia Balsam, Ernest Borgnine, Roscoe Lee Brown, Carol Burnett, Dick Butkus, Carol Channing, Candy Clark, Tyne Daly, Ted Danson, Shannon Doherty, Tate Donovan, Jimmy Doohan from Star Trek, Samantha Egger, Morgan Fairchild, Norman Fell, Jose Ferrer, Miguel Ferrer, Robert Forster, oh yeah, Aaron Gray, Alan Hale Jr., Joanna Kearns, Angela Lansbury as Jessica Fletcher in a Murder, She Wrote like crossover, Jeffrey Lewis, Darren McGavin, Ian McShane, Vera Miles, Cameron Mitchell, Pat Morita, Vic Morrow, Annie Potts, John Ratzenberger, Alfonso Ribeiro, Kim Richards, John Saxon, Larry B. Scott, Frank Sinatra, Sharon Stone, and Dennis Weaver, just to name a few of them. And I just had forgotten, again, how popular this show was and how much they wanted to have so many cool guest stars on it. So a really, really nice set, and I got to say hats off to, nice little insert there, hats off to MillCreek for doing a wonderful job with a beloved television show. This is well worth your time. And again, I know a lot of people have already talked about it, but in case you are on the fence, it is definitely worth picking up. I'll go into some other stuff I picked up here. From Shout Factory, I got The Core, The Only Way Out Is In. Love that. So I remember seeing this in the theater in, 2003 and being so entertained by it. It's a very silly movie. I mean, the idea is that Hilary Swank leads an all-star cast in an electrifying, spectacular adventure. Geophysicist Dr. Josh Keyes, Aaron Eckhart. Remember when Aaron Eckhart was a, A-level star? Like, it seems like I haven't seen him in a film in a little bit, but he had a moment, definitely. Has made a terrifying discovery. The Earth's inner core has stopped rotating. The planet's electromagnetic field is subsequently deteriorating, and within months, Earth will be destroyed. One hope remains: send Keyes and an elite team of scientists into a subterranean craft to the center of the Earth. With mankind's fate hanging in the balance, they must do the unthinkable: detonate a nuclear device to reactivate the Earth's core, basically jump-starting the Earth's core. It's got a co-starring cast of Delroy Lindo, Alfre Woodard, DJ Qualls, Stanley Tucci with a ridiculous hair piece. That's very fun. And it's a pulse-pounding thrill ride. I don't know about that, but it is super silly in parts, but nonetheless very entertaining. Directed by John Amiel. This is a new 4K scan from the original camera negative, which I'm looking forward to checking out. Audio commentary with director John Amiel, To the Core and Back, the making of the core, deleted and extended scenes with director commentary, and deconstruction of the special effects. So this is a really nice Shout Select special edition of the core, and I love that the cult of this film continues with this really wonderful release. So I'm very much excited about that. I literally just got this. Another from Shout Factory. Is this part of the Scream? Yeah, this is a Scream line. The Sword and the Sorcerer. 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray. As you can see, a lusty epic of revenge and magic, Dungeons and Dragons, Wizards and Witches, Damsels in Desire, and a warrior caught between. I can't remember if I've seen this movie or not. I think I have. I've definitely heard tell of it over the years. As you can see, it's got a pretty cool cast, including George Maharis and Richard Lynch, who I'm a big fan of, as well as Bob Tessier, Nina Van Pallant, Richard Mall. I love Richard Mall in fantasy films. Like he showed up in several fantasy type roles, and he somehow fits the bill really well, if you remember him from Night Court. But it says, meet Talon, a daring mercenary who conquers castles and dungeons alike with his lethal three-bladed sword. That I do seem to remember. But when Talon learns that he is the prince of a kingdom controlled by an evil sorcerer, he is thrust into the widest fight of his life. Wildest. Can Talon rescue a beautiful princess and slay the warlock, or will he fall prey to the black magic of a medieval mayhem? Lee Horsley, Kathleen Beller, Simon McCorkindale, and Richard Mall star in this action-packed action-adventure saga filled with brutal battles, plucky maidens, and savage monsters and more. I'm really looking forward to this. I've heard good things about the transfer. Just one that I had to snag from Scream Factory. Very cool stuff. The Sword and the Sorcerer. Another fantasy film. This one from Vestron. This is Dream a Little Dream. I do love the Vestron line. They're doing a lot of cool stuff. They recently announced, and by the time this goes up, you may be able to easily pre-order Extreme Prejudice, Walter Hill's film. That's really great and deserving of a domestic Blu-ray. I have a German media book, but I'm sure this will look much better. Okay, so Dream a Little Dream. This, obviously, as you can see, stars Corey Feldman, Corey Haim, and Meredith Salinger, as well as old guard actors like Jason Robards, Harry Dean Stanton, Piper Laurie. And it is a bizarre movie about a young teenage kid, kind of a smart aleck, who ends up, he ends up switching bodies. It's ultimately a body switch movie, part of a series of these kind of movies that were happening in the mid to late 80s. And I do miss them. I was watching the TV show Red Oaks. Great show on Amazon. This is now a couple years ago. And I loved that they dedicated an entire episode to Switch movies. They did a Switch movie themed episode, and they didn't really make it a dream. Like they made it a real part of this. It was like not a fantasy show, but they suddenly introduced this element of fantasy. And I was like, my respect for the show skyrocketed. I'm like, I can't believe you guys did this. But obviously, again, if you grew up in the 80s, you remember these Switch movies. Such an odd trend. Like Father Like Son, 18 Again, vice versa, all kinds of stuff like that. But this was one that definitely has a cult following because of the Coreys and because of Meredith Salinger, who we all had a crush on back then for sure. And this is kind of a bizarre movie. Oh yeah, Victoria Jackson's in this too. I forgot about that. Quirky comedy, high school hijinks ensued when an oddball older couple tries a transcendental experiment to extend their lives, and they accidentally mind swap with a teenager who lives down the street. We learn that perhaps youth is really wasted on the young. I think they switched both the wife, Piper Laurie, and Robard switched with Meredith Salinger and Corey Feldman. I can't even remember exactly, but I'm looking forward to rewatching this one. This has an audio commentary with film historian Jarrett Gahan, interviews with Corey Feldman, which I did watch, which is interesting, about a half an hour with Feldman. He's always an interesting interview, we'll put it like that. When Lightning Strikes, an interview with executive producer Lawrence Kazanoff, trailer. So some decent extras here for this, but it's nice to finally get it on Blu-ray. Obviously get a digital copy as well. Dream a Little Dream. I'm sure a lot of people have picked that up already. I mentioned Explosive Media once before. This is another from them. It's a German import label. This is a Region B lock disc. This movie is called Minnesota Clay. As you can see, it's a film by Sergio Corbucci. I first heard this one mentioned in there's a Sergio documentary on Netflix featuring Quentin Tarantino, which is really great. He talks about Sergio Corbucci, and it's really cool stuff. And he mentions this film as one that he likes a lot. And so I was looking around. I think it's on YouTube, but I was like, oh, here it is on Blu-ray from Explosive. As I said, it is Region B locked, so you would need a multi-region player, but it looks really good. And it's a pretty cool movie. It's got Cameron Mitchell, one of the great, Hollywood actors that made his way over to Italy in the 60s. This came out in, I want to say, 64. So it was an earlier Corbucci film. But he plays a guy who's wrongfully imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit, and he seeks revenge on the man who withheld evidence at his trial. But the catch is he's going blind. He's slowly losing his sight, and that makes for, it's a good movie before the ending. But when you get to the ending, it really steps up because there's a great shootout where he really almost can't see at all. And how does he deal with that? How can he win with being nearly blind, having to listen and shoot at people? And of course, it has the great Italian gun sound effects that we love and remember from all the spaghetti westerns. It sounds like almost like a missile or something. But anyway, a really nice looking Blu-ray and a good Sergio Corbucci film that, as far as I know, doesn't have another release outside of this one that I could find, but I could be wrong. But yeah, so worth importing. If you go to Explosive Media's website, they link directly to Amazon Germany, I believe. So this is worth picking up if you're into spaghetti westerns. I dug this. Next we have Love Affair with Irene Dunn and Charles Boye. I bought this a while back during the Criterion flash sale on their website. I was able to use an old I think I had like 2 coupons, and this ended up being like $8 or something. And this is sort of a golden age Hollywood love story that was later remade as An Affair to Remember. And so it's really, really good and tugs at the heartstrings, and has Irene, as I said, Irene Dunn and Charles Boye, and I remember really digging it. And so it's been a while, and this is one of those movies that's been available in the public domain for years, so there have been a lot of really crappy DVD releases of it, which I think tends to denigrate the movie itself, because you're used to seeing it in such poor versions. You figure it's not really worthy of my attention, maybe because it doesn't look very good, or there's some subconscious thing that happens there, and part of it is just that the rights fall into the public domain, and then anybody can put it out, and they do, and it becomes difficult for a high profile company to bother to invest the time and money into restoring it, because it's so widely available on YouTube and everywhere. But I'm so glad when companies like Criterion do this. In this case, they've done a new 4K digital restoration. It's by the Museum of Modern Art and Lobster Films with uncompressed binaural soundtrack. So that's great. It's going to look better than it's ever looked. This is directed by Leo McCarey, who did a bunch of great films that I'm a fan of, including Make Way for Tomorrow is one of his best. That's also on Criterion. The inspiration for Tokyo Story. Really, really good movie. Okay, so Golden Age Hollywood's humanist master Leo McCarey brings his graceful touch and relaxed naturalism to the sublime romance, one of cinema's most intoxicating tear-ringers. Irene Dunn and Charles Boye are the chic strangers who meet and fall in love aboard an ocean liner bound for New York. Though they are both involved with other people, they make a pact to reconnect 6 months later at the top of the Empire State Building, until the hand of fate throws their star-crossed affair tragically off course. Swooning passion and gentle comedy coexist in perfect harmony in the exquisitely tender Love Affair, nominated for 6 Oscars, a story so timeless that it's been remade by multiple filmmakers over the years, including McCarey himself, who updated it as his no less beloved An Affair to Remember. So very excited to check this Blu-ray out. It has a new interview with film critic Farron Smith-Neme about the movie's complicated production history. I look forward to that. She's great. New interview with Serge Bromberg, founder of Lobster Films, about the restoration. 2 radio adaptations with Dunn, William Powell, and Charles Boye. 2 short films by Leo McCarey, starring silent comedians Charlie Chase, Looking for Sally from 1925, and a Mighty Like a Moose from 1926. And then includes an essay by author Megan McGurk as well. So very nice to have that on Blu-ray for the classic film fan. And then I picked up a couple from a fan of my podcast. A gentleman was very kind enough to offer me these used, and these are 2 that I've been wanting for a long time. This is Jean-Pierre Melville's Army of Shadows, which I have still not seen to this point, and I've heard tons of great things about it. This is probably going to get a 4K release now. But this is the 2020 reissue. They have issued this film a few times. This says here, the most personal film by the underworld poet Jean-Pierre Melville, who had participated in the French Resistance himself. This tragic masterpiece, based on the novel by Joseph Kessel, recounts the struggles and sacrifices of those who fought in the resistance. Lino Ventura, Paul Meurice, Jean-Pierre Cassel, and the incomparable Simone Signoret star as intrepid underground fighters who must grapple with their conception of honor in their battle against Hitler's regime. Long underappreciated in France and unseen in the United States, the atmospheric and gripping thriller Army of Shadows is now widely recognized as the summit of Melville's career, channeling the exquisite minimalism of his gangster films to create an unsparing tale of defiance in the face of seemingly insurmountable odds. So this has a high-definition digital restoration supervised by director of photography Pierre Lhomme with uncompressed binaural. Audio commentary from 2006. That was the, I think, original issue of this film, featuring film scholar Jeanette Vincedo. Interviews from 2007 with Lhomme and editor Francois Bonneau. On-set footage and excerpts from the archival interviews with director Jean-Pierre Melville himself, cast members, and real-life resistance fighters. Jean-Pierre Melville, La Remée des Ombres, a short program on the director and his film. A rare short documentary shot on the front lines during the final days of the German occupation, restoration demonstration as well. So very happy to have this one in my collection finally, from 1969. And this one I've heard of, but I really don't know a ton about. Panique. I want to say maybe Elric was a fan of this, or I heard him talk about it. I can't remember why this was on my radar, but this is another one that I got a really nice deal on, and one I've been wanting to check out. Proud, eccentric, and antisocial Monsieur Hire, Michel Simon, has always kept to himself, but after a woman turns up dead in Paris, in a Paris suburb where he lives, he feels drawn to a pretty young newcomer to town, Viviane Romance, discovers that his neighbors are only too ready to suspect the worst of him and is framed for the murder. Based on a novel by Georges Simeon, Julien Duvivier's first film, after his return to France from Hollywood, finds the acclaimed poetic realist applying his consummate craft to the darker, moodier ends, propelled by its too deeply nuanced and lead performances. The tensely noirish Panique exposes the dangers of the knives-out mob mentality, delivering as well a pointed allegory for the behavior of Duvivier's countrymen during the war. So this is a new 2K restoration. And The Art of Subtitling, a new short documentary by Bruce Goldstein, founder and co-president of Rialto Pictures, about the history of subtitles. Very interesting. New interview with author Pierre Simonon, the son of novelist George Simonon. Conversation from 2015 between critics Jim Lamette Odesino and Eric Libio about director Julien Duvivier and the film's production history. Rialto Pictures released trailer, film scholar essay by James Quant and Borger. So that's from 1946. Looking forward to checking that out. This round I'm going to pull in a book, as I've done in the past. I know people liked when I brought in the books. So I'm going to talk about Pete Toombs' Mondo Macabro. That may sound familiar to Blu-ray collectors, of course, because that's his label. And that is the company itself is sort of based around the kinds of films that were in this book. And this book came out, I'm going to have to figure that out. You know what? I'm not even sure if this book is still in print. So it might be or it might not be, and I apologize for teasing people with an out-of-print book. May 1998, it looks like. So it's a ways old now, but definitely gives you a sense of the kind of cinema that you see from the label itself. Let's see here. I love little, pictures like that encapsulate the kind of movies we're talking about. But let me look at the, you have sections like Crazy Kung Fu, right? Hong Kong Part 1, right? I want to just look at the, okay. So here's kind of what we're talking about in terms of China Blue, Hong Kong Part 2, Ghosts Galore, Hong Kong Part 3, Shoe of the Queen of Blood Island, the Philippines, Mystics from Bali, Indonesia, The Bare Facts About Bollywood, India Part 1, From Myths to Monsters, India Part 2, Dracula in Istanbul, Turkey, The Strange World of Mr. Marins, Brazil, Meat on Meat, Argentina. Masked Men and Monsters, Mexico. When Kissing Had to Start, Japan Part 1. Thinking Pink, Japan Part 2. And Bloodthirsty Eyes, Japan Part 3. So a lot of foreign cinema of the crazy variety. Like here's one I've never heard of. Gondorium, The Haunted House. You know, like you can open it to really any page and you'll see, this one I have heard of. A tank, which I want to say is an Indonesian? No. Jaws knockoff, I want to say. But a very cool book if you're into stuff like the psychotronic type guides. You know, it's a little different than that. This book definitely has its own vibe for sure, but I think a really great resource, and a lot of films in here. This one came out from AGFA a couple years ago. So I remember that. I forget the Scarlet. No, what is that called? Claw. I remember that. But yeah, it's a really. Oh, and here's Sorry, I'm getting actually just lost looking at this book. It's a really solid book. Like I said, just lots of crazy cinema for you to check out. I mean, you see a picture like that, and you're like, what is that movie? I need to see that like ASAP. So yeah, it's highly recommended. Batwoman. And again, I don't know if it's in print, so I'll leave a link below, and there may be some sticker shock involved in the price, but definitely one to check out. I have so many of these film books that I haven't really dug into, but Weird and Wonderful Cinema from Around the World is well put, and exactly what this book is all about. So if you enjoy the label, check out the book. You know, I do think it's something that you will end up enjoying for sure. So that's Mondo Macabro by Pete Toombs. And that is going to do it for this. Oh, actually, wait a minute. I have one more book. Somebody sent me this, and I have to just bring it up because, there's been a lot of talk of novelizations since the Once Upon a Time in Hollywood novelization came out. This is the novelization of Basic Instinct, and I'm really grateful to the person that sent me this. It is by Richard Osborne, based on the motion picture written by Joe Asterhouse. So this is pretty wild, I gotta say. I love the large print too, by the way, and this is hardcover. This is really nice. Like I'm hugely appreciative of anybody who wants to send me novelizations. I collect them. I've sort of slowed my collecting of them in recent years, but this is one of the nicest gifts I've ever gotten. So if you're into novelizations, you want to see what, Basic Instinct came out on 4K, you're like, what is the book like? What is the novelization like? You can maybe track down this hardcover version of it. Anyway, I'm going on and on here. I'll shut up. But thank you so much for watching and or listening. I sincerely appreciate your time. If there's something in here you liked, I hope maybe I could have turned you on to something. Although a lot of this stuff I'm sure you've heard of, but maybe Minnesota Clay, maybe that's something you haven't really heard of, or one of these books, anything I can do to turn you in the direction of something you might not have been aware of is an honor, and I appreciate all of you. So thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.